Welcome everyone to this evening session in the UK and morning session in San Francisco as I chat with Brian Murray of Cotap about his application, which is, I have to say, a brilliant messaging application for use in businesses, small and mega large. And welcome, Brian.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I love the platform.
Indeed. The platform is in beta and is functioning well. Right. Okay. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? Because you were part of the team at Yammer.
That's right.
Right. So, what was happening those days? Yammer was.
So, yeah, the story of Cotap is a pretty interesting one.
Yep.
Many of us here came from Yammer. And the reason we started Cotap was when we started Yammer in 2008, that was when Twitter was becoming popular, Facebook was becoming popular, becoming more mainstream, and we felt that that style of communication would eventually make its way into the workplace. So we wanted to create a secure, corporate-controlled version of that for companies. That was Yammer. And that was great. We had a great ride. We got acquired by Microsoft for $1.2 billion in 2012. And about a year later, I was on the product team there at Yammer. And a year later, there was a lot of shift in the way people were working and communicating towards this.
Right. Yeah.
And yet, when we created Yammer, it was largely based on the web version, the browser version of the application. We did have a mobile app, but that was sort of an afterthought. And like many cases where you get acquired, it's a lot harder to do things quickly and pursue the vision that you like to pursue when you're part of a bigger team. No surprise there. So yeah. We realized that the future of communication was going to be mobile first, and the only way to do that was to start from scratch. So a group of us left Yammer, started Cotap in about 2013, May 2013, with the vision initially of being the professional version of WhatsApp, and we've evolved a lot since then.
Right. Okay. Well, that's as you say, came out of Yammer. Did you have something that was of paramount importance to you? I'm thinking here in terms of two things: the speed and security of a messaging system.
Yeah, so we knew from Yammer and Microsoft that if we were going to do this, we had to differentiate from what people were currently using, which was things like in the US, people used iMessage, just a texting app that showed up on your phone. In Europe and Africa, there was a lot of WhatsApp. In South America, a lot of WhatsApp. And in Asia, it was mostly WeChat and Line. But all of those applications function similarly, but they were built for people interacting with friends and family. So if we're going to build something for businesses, we needed to have some very important considerations, like it needed to be secure, it needed to be corporate controlled, the identity should be professional, not personal. So to sign up for Cotap, you have to use your work email address. So there was a lot of tweaks that we made to Cotap, and we continue to make to Cotap to position it as a work-focused or professional communicator.
Right. Okay. My apologies for that. I'm getting messages from Cotap. Such is the way. Right. What about the speed of it? How? I mean, we're very fortunate in the UK that Thomas Bauer and Bob Barker find out and research the new applications, and they're over the moon about Cotap, and I know they came out to see you this week, didn't they?
Yeah, great guys. First of all, loved spending the last 2 days with them. It's really fantastic to meet people who get not only what you're doing today, but what you're trying to do in the future without you having to explain it. And you only really see that with hardcore technologists. So we had a great few days with those guys. Now, the speed you mentioned is that I would classify as that is an inherently mobile attribute. So let me try to explain that. When you're on a social network or a forum or something online, when you're posting things, it's a little slower. It doesn't really feel real time. Twitter's gotten the closest at that, but a lot of that has to do with the way your browser is connected to the internet. So let me just explain that small point. This is just one example. But when I am using any application on the browser, I need a connection to the internet, a solid connection to the internet. If I don't have a connection to the internet and I click refresh or enter a URL, nothing appears. But on mobile, imagine if you had no internet connection and an app you were trying to use was just blank. That would be very bizarre. So when you're building for mobile, you have to take into account considerations like a intermittent internet connection or intermittent data connection, and make sure that the user experience feels like you still have that speed and responsiveness, even when the data can't be transmitted as quickly. So I can get really nerdy and talk about the technicalities of what we do, but the summary of it is speed is critical to Cotap. We want people to feel like they are in a room together when they're communicating on Cotap.
Right. So speed is the same whether you're on the web or on your mobile device. I just want to talk about that for a moment. How important was it for you to be across all the mobile devices? Because we've seen a lot of applications start up and just go straight to iPhone, and Android gets left behind. But in your case, the Android app is there, the desktop app is there.
Yeah. So that was, you can't boil the ocean all at once. So if you're starting a business and your plan is to launch V1 with every app covered, it'll take you years before you launch, and then you lose momentum. So when we launched, we only had an iPhone app, and it was a pretty basic application. But we knew all the building blocks along the way, and we learned along the way too, which was the most important piece. And one of the most interesting things, and I would classify it as unexpected, was that we realized that mobile means, it doesn't just mean your smartphone. It means that you can, to us at least, it means that you can access the technology from wherever you are, whether you're at a computer or you're on the move or you're on your tablet. It's there and it's with you. So while we started with mobile because that was the most obvious, we quickly realized, especially in business, that we needed to provide endpoints for when people were at a desk, when they were looking at their tablet. And so we've kind of added those over time.
Understood. Yep. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about what Cotap can do. What can you actually do on Cotap as a user?
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. But there's, one of the interesting conversations we had with Bob and Thomas was about this concept of covering all communication options. That's what our goal is to do with Cotap. Part of that is having it available on all devices, which we talked about. But the other part of it is I want to be able to share in as many different ways as possible, because a lot of times there are different situations or contexts that merit different styles of communication. So if you can imagine let's see, it's a table with 2 rows and 3 columns. And the columns, we've got text in one column, we've got voice in another column, and we've got video in a third column. Those represent the primary communication mediums. So right now we're doing video as an example. Now the rows would be synchronous and asynchronous. In other words, real time or not real time. And so with Cotap, our goal is to check all of these 6 boxes. So as an example, if we're talking about video, real-time video is what we're doing right now. It's streaming video. But you also have video recordings that you'd like to share. That's asynchronous video. For audio, you have a phone call is real-time audio. And asynchronous audio or voice is voice messages, which we have in Cotap, kind of like a walkie-talkie. So that's kind of the vision for Cotap, is to cover all of those bases, both in real time and asynchronously, so that our users have as much choice as possible in communicating what they'd like to communicate.
Yeah. So within the application, I congratulate on the fact that the interface is the same across all devices. I'm a programmer too, and keeping it simple is the way to go. and the Cotap interface is easy to understand. In fact, one of the people that Thomas introduced Cotap to said that he'd started his own group, and the people in that group had taken to it easily, learnt it very quickly, and at the end of the week, the rest, do they want to go back to the old application? And 9 out of 10 said we're staying with Cotap. And that's because you've got the interface right. It's simple to use, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's partially to do with the interface, partially to do with the professional nature of identity. With WhatsApp, you use a phone number, so it's not easy to determine who's who. But with Cotap, we already know who's who as soon as you sign up, because you sign up with a corporate email address. And yes, we've kept it simple. We've also built in some work-specific capabilities like group conference calling. So with Cotap, you can literally start a conference call from a group, whether you're on desktop, tablet, or mobile. That'll send out a push notification to all the group members, and then you could join a call instantly. That's an example of something Cotap would prioritize, because people do that all the time at work. But Facebook with WhatsApp or Messenger wouldn't necessarily prioritize that, because it's not that often that you're in a group conference call with your friends or your family.
That's true. So let's talk about the mechanics of that. How do you first of all join Cotap?
Yeah, so you sign up. There's a lot of different ways of joining Cotap, but the most straightforward way is you go to Cotap.com. There's a sign up button or try Cotap button, and you enter in your corporate email address, and then we send you a 4-digit code. Basically, this is the way that we prove that you are who you say you are, and you don't need a password. This is actually another, we could talk for hours about this new security model that's popping up, but Cotap is passwordless, and we actually believe that's more secure, because a lot of people use the same password for 20 different applications. So if it gets compromised in one application, then the remaining 19 are compromised. With Cotap, there is no password, so it's a quick one-time use code, temporary, and that's how you authenticate yourself. So I just described how you get started on the web version of Cotap, but if you downloaded the mobile app, it would be the same process. You put in your corporate email address, and then you get the code sent to your email, and then you're in.
So it's easy to join, and you can join on the web or a mobile, and you can download the apps. Now, the beauty of this is, as I found out, the conversations follow you around, don't they? You could start off with the mobile in the morning, PC during the day, and laptop in the evening. Yep.
Yeah. Actually, when I first met Thomas, one of his clients was saying, he tweeted something along the lines of, I'm looking for a WhatsApp for work. Does anybody know any solutions? And so I replied to him saying, hey, you should check out Cotap. And Thomas, being Thomas, is just a monster on social media. He caught onto it, and I shared what's called my Cotap.me link. So I'm actually going to post it into the group feed.
Okay.
This is a fascinating part of our technology stack, and that is that with Cotap, we have given our users basically URLs that act kind of like a phone number, kind of like an email address. But when people follow those URLs, it takes them to a direct one-to-one conversation with me. So when I was tweeting with Thomas, I posted my Cotap.me URL. Within seconds, he was tapping me directly. I was actually driving my family down. My wife was driving, so it was safe. But I was in the backseat with my daughter. And it was a long drive from San Francisco to Los Angeles, 6-hour drive. And I would say about 4 of those hours were spent just tapping vigorously with Thomas, and him talking about how Cotap was a monster in an embryo, I think was his classic quote.
Yeah.
So, a lot of his stuff.
Yeah, he's been enthusing about Cotap ever since the two of you connected. And as you know, on Cotap, he's invited hundreds of people to join in and to experience it. And everybody's, as I said earlier, people are taking, I would have phrased here, like ducks to water, which means that it's so simple to use that people can, as you said, just use their email, get the code, which is a short-term code, and log in, and you're away. And the thing is that you can find your friends that are there, can't you? You easily navigate it and connect with people.
Yeah, because it's based on email address. And one thing I take a lot of pride in with Cotap is the talent of our product and engineering teams. Because we have a lot of experience building other similar tools, because we're here in San Francisco, and everybody's such a nerd about the latest SDKs and technology principles and engineering principles. What we've done is we've architected a secure database to create a relationship graph between users. So let's say, Stephen, that you sign up for Cotap, and let's say that 4 other people signed up before you signed up, and they synced their calendar, they synced their contacts, and you were in their directories. Right. By the time you sign up, you will see them because you have that existing connection. We do a lot of little things like that to help smooth out the conversation process and make it easier and easier for our users to find each other, our members, I should say.
Yeah, that works brilliantly, because I found a couple of hundred people who I'm connected to, and I didn't have to go searching for them. I didn't have to import an address book, all of which is the old way of doing it. You've done it seamlessly behind the scenes. Yeah. Now, the other thing that I noticed was different, because we've been on a couple of weeks now. Can you tell me a little about Cotap Clear and why?
Yeah, so we actually, I would say, I think that was about 6 months ago we released that, but there was and is a trend around data security. So our CEO has a background not only with the U.S. military and their data security group, but also worked as a security specialist at a number of different technology companies. So he's very advanced in thinking about all these things. And the way he has described it is the thing that companies should be spending their time on in terms of protecting themselves and their data is minimizing the surface area of information that is proprietary or important to the business. Now, this is actually contrary to a lot of practices that companies have in place today and historically. And in some certain industries, there are regulatory requirements for this, but by and large, a lot of companies, their security mindset is, let's make sure all of the data just stays within our firewall or our system or whatever and never gets out. Yeah. What Cotap Clear represents is, rather than accumulating all this data, this sensitive data, let's clear it out, because the usefulness of the data declines over time. It erodes as time goes on. So might as well just clear it out of your storage or queue, or what you are not liable for, but what could be hacked. So for instance, the Sony hack that was so famous, a lot of those communications happened years prior, but they were just stored on servers for really no good reason, other than the security teams there thought that was the best way of going about it. So that's why we built Clear, because we wanted to give control to our customers so that they can determine how long they want these conversations to last for. It could be indefinite, or it could be as short as a week.
Right. So you got freedom of choice in the settings. You can decide, but ordinarily, if you do nothing, then it disappears after 14 days. So you've got the last 14 days history live, and then before that, it's gone. So you're not, because I read the piece, and people don't go back more than 2 weeks, do they, normally, in terms of looking at old data?
No.
Messaging.
Yeah, and also that's the design of Cotap. Like I said earlier, it should feel like you are in a room with the other people. And if you think about a dinner conversation or any live conversation that's happening, you can't go back in time and refer to what was said before. That's just not possible. So our thinking was, sometimes that information is useful. That's why we give control to the companies to go back in time. But the design of Cotap is really meant to be real-time, live, secure, private communications.
Right. Okay. Now, you've been going since 2013. Along the way, you've acquired some customers that we'd all recognise.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about those?
Yeah. So a few examples would be L3 Communications. They've got about 200,000 employees. I've really enjoyed working with them. You all might know them from when you go through an airport security and you have to do that thing where you stand in the whatever and the thing goes around.
Yep.
They make those things. So the use case for Cotap was actually one of their IT directors reached out to us a long time ago and said, I've got a big WhatsApp problem on my hands. All my technicians are using WhatsApp to address issues with the equipment, blah, blah, blah. And they are in a business that's very sensitive, right? They're dealing with government security and national safety, blah, blah, blah. So he came to us saying, I have a WhatsApp problem. And we love hearing that because that means the person we're talking to recognizes that it's happening, one, and two, realizes that they need to provide a secure alternative. So we've done that, and they've got teams all around the world using Cotap sorry, just got to pop up, to identify issues with the equipment, make sure that they're operating as efficiently as possible on site, and it's almost entirely mobile. They do have the corporate teams that sit at desks, and they're almost like a dispatcher out to the mobile teams who are handling it. So that's one in sort of I would classify that as the field technician kind of use case. Another one that you all might be familiar with is Westfield, the shopping malls. So specifically, the holding company of Westfield in Australia and New Zealand is called Centre Group, and they another great use case. They were using WhatsApp, and they realized they needed a more secure version because they were talking about some sensitive things. So they rolled out Cotap to all their mall employees, and it's been just so fascinating to see what's happened there. A few use cases that popped to mind, or situations that were particularly interesting. One was they had some serious storms and floods, and so they used they used Cotap across their malls to coordinate when things would be open, working with the tenants, working with the security guards to respond to those incidents. The other one that I should mention that was interesting is because Cotap works across companies, they actually used it to collaborate with police to help identify burglars. There was a string of burglaries in the area, and so they created Cotap groups to try and address those issues, and it helped them find the culprits faster and take action. So, cool stuff like that is always happening, but those are two companies that you all may have heard of in the past.
Yep, we must certainly have, and 200,000 users is quite a good number. Well, it's an amazing number in actual fact. Yes, now we're going to let people into the seat in a moment. Where do you see Cotap going and in the next couple of years, and what plans do you have for the application itself? Because you already cover, as you mentioned earlier, you cover messaging, you cover phone, you cover video. What else have you got planned?
So one of the things that's on the near-term roadmap, we're actually working on it now, is it's called mobile VoIP. So today you can do one-to-one and group calls from your smartphone with Cotap, but we kick you over to your phone's dialer. So the actual phone app we preload the number and make it really easy, but at the end of the day, it's still using the dialer, which means you're using your minutes and your service provider, AT&T, Verizon, Telefonica, O2, whatever it is. So one thing that we'll be releasing soon is mobile VoIP, which will allow you to make all your calls entirely through the app. So so you don't have to leave the app, number one. Number two, and more interestingly, is this will mean it'll be possible for you to make those calls from tablets, from devices like iPod Touches. And when you think about that in a business scenario, there are so many businesses that are considering and already deploying these not smartphones but smart devices to lots of employees, and they could, with Cotap, they can turn those into fully enabled communication tools. So I think that's just got massive potential. It's a big undertaking, and that's just one piece of the strategy. But long term, what we want to be is the go-to communications app for all business communications, which is a very ambitious goal.
It is. I mean, it's a mega market in terms of looking forward. Now, I'm going to crib my note. Look at my crib notes just for a moment for the first time. Can we just go back to conference? So conference calls. Basically, you just bring a group of people together and you just press the one button and you're on a conference call.
Yeah, it kind of redefines conference calling because we're so used to trying to remember the dial-in number and then remember the long code at the end. With Cotap, you just click a button and you're in, and you can join from your browser, the desktop app, or the mobile app. A few of the fun things that we've done is the hold music is probably not what you would expect. It's not like elevator music. We've done things like add the Game of Thrones theme song as one of our hold tunes and things like that, just to make it a little fun. But you also have, and this is really powerful, within the Cotap group that you started the call from, you have a log of who's joining the group and joining the call and who's leaving the call. So it'll say, if we were in a group and we started a call, it'll indicate when and who is joining the call and leaving. So I hope that it ends the roll calling nature of group conference calling. So people won't have to say like, hey, this is Brian. They'll just know because they'll see in the group. And you also have this interesting blend of simultaneous communication. So I'll do a lot of Cotap group calls, and I'll also be writing messages at the same time in the group. This is especially helpful when you're working with people where there's a language barrier, because a lot of times they can understand the text better than the audio. So it's definitely redefining what a group conference call is, and we're excited to see how our customers adapt to that. It should make it more flexible and less planned and scheduled and more need-based and in the moment.
Wonderful. Right. Okay. Now, before we open up the seat, just one more observation, and that's collaboration within companies and within groups. You sort of set up for that, aren't you? You can exchange files, you can chat, you can go on the phone, you can go on video. So it's ideal for groups collaborating, whether in the same company or not.
Yeah, and that's a big thing that we learned at Yammer. And anybody who's used Yammer will see this. So what we did at Yammer is we created a inherent wall between our Yammer networks, and that was your email domain. So you could only communicate with the people inside your domain. You could create external networks, but it was sort of cumbersome. And that was great in the beginning because it made people feel more comfortable with Yammer, knowing that it was just their employees. But as we grew up, it became a huge hindrance because we could never really eat into email unless we allowed more seamless cross-company interactions. Right. So with Cotap, what we've done is we do provide we provide a feeling like you're in a network setting through the directory. The Cotap directory is based on your email domain, but we don't do anything to prevent you from having cross-company interactions, and that's been really important to us.
Yeah, that's a major differentiation with Yammer, insofar as you say you've got to have the same email address extension to be able to talk to each other, whereas within Cotap, if you're known to be in your direct email list, all contacts are available to you. You can get together in a group and collaborate and exchange files and information. Yeah. Right, amazingly, we've been chatting for half an hour now, and it's been a joy. Good. Right, okay, we're going to open up the seat. If somebody wants to come and ask Brian a direct question, anything that I've forgotten, which is entirely possible, then please do so. I've got quite a few people here who've been using Cotap since Thomas mentioned it to us, and undoubtedly, if you've got a question, you can either take the open seat just by pressing the call-in button, or you can type a question in text in the bottom right-hand side. I'm going to ask a favour though, because I can't see the full screen. I can't make Brian co-host either at the moment. So John, can you just pop in? I'd like you to meet my colleague John, and we do a weekly blab show. We've been doing this for quite a while, Right, and we're quite enjoying being on board.
Hello.
Hello, John.
I wasn't planning on coming in on this. Otherwise, I would have guessed better.
Okay. I mean, this is the joy of it. I mean, you're in San Francisco, Brian, and John is in the Midlands in the UK, and I'm in Wiltshire in the UK. John and I are 200 miles apart, and you and I are 3,000 miles apart. So this is the joy of modern technology, that we can all get together and talk. Now I'm just going to try something, John.
90 miles apart than 200, but
all right, okay.
You're still living in Burnley. That's your problem.
I know. Right, okay. If anybody else likes to join us, then you're more than welcome to do so. It's been a fascinating session so far, and
I've got a question for
surely.
Brian. Can you put a link up where people can get the apps from?
Yeah. Hey, I think TP is joining us.
Yeah, well, he joins everybody, doesn't he?
No, it's
Thomas.
Thomas
for a long time.
Thomas introduced Cotaps the UK, or to group of us in the UK, so he's more than welcome to join in. They spent 3 days this week with Brian and the team over there in San Francisco. So I'm hoping that
he doesn't seem to want to come in. He must be on his phone.
Can you hear us, Thomas? Okay. If you are having problems, if you could just pop out and come back in again. Usually it works second time. Right. Okay. So that's that. Right. Okay. Well, in terms of
the links in the thread here of where you can get the applications, I think those are the right ones.
I asked that because we all received a notification of the of where to get the Windows app recently.
Yep.
But it's page not found when you click on it.
Oh, really?
But, yeah, I managed to get there. So
well, I've got it as well on my Windows machine.
All right. Okay.
I just thought for the general public.
Yeah. The thing I love is the fact that it is across all devices. I mean, it's on my tablet, it's on my phone, it's on my desktop, it's on the web, which is absolutely brilliant. I don't know whether Thomas is coming back in or not. Right, okay.
He doesn't seem to be able to get back in at all, does he?
Right. For those who've joined us, and we've got people joining us all the time, the numbers have been going up. Brian, could you just give a quick overview of Cotap, just for everybody, so that we have in clear terms what it is and where you're headed, and why we should join in?
Yeah, so Cotap is a secure all-in-one communications platform. We are a mobile-first company with DNA from Microsoft and Yammer, so we've built enterprise technology plenty of times in the past. Our inspiration was apps like WhatsApp, Line, WeChat, Facebook Messenger, Snapchat. The idea being that as this becomes more important in our lives, then it will define how we want to communicate with each other. And we've already been trained on how to do that using those consumer apps. Cotap is the secure work version of that provides capabilities that are work-focused, like sharing files, having group conferences, being able to administer the use of Cotap at your company. One thing I should mention that we didn't touch on, which I think is a very important part of Cotap that is not obvious because it's part of our premium version, and that is the administrative console of Cotap. So behind all of the apps that we've talked about, there's an administrative backend that our customers have access to. And from there, they can do a number of things. They could manage user access. So if someone leaves the company, they could revoke their access to Cotap. They can also create, and this is the important part, they can create groups for their employees. So the way I like to describe this is, let's say you're a building developer and you want to create a new neighborhood on untouched land. Well, you could just invite everyone over to that untouched land and then try and start building the roads and the parks and everything as they get there, but that's a little tough and confusing. Or you can create all that structure, the infrastructure, before you invite everyone over. And that's a much more thoughtful way of going about it. So when we work with companies, we always spend a good amount of time saying, okay, let's create a number of groups for different for your employees. So each individual employee would be in anywhere from 3 to 5 groups to start that are specifically relevant to them. That way, when they join Cotap, they have the context of why they would use this, who they're going to communicate with as a starting point. And that's not something that will exist in the consumer apps because there's no concept of an administrative side of WhatsApp or Messenger or anything like that.
Right. Okay. Understood. And it's very important from a company's point of view, not only security and speed, but control, isn't it? They want to be able to control their own workforce and their own data.
Yeah. Yep. That's also where you set the your clear settings, as you mentioned. The Cotap clear settings get set on the admin backend. But I think it's a lot of people would respond well to using the term control, but I like to say it's kind of giving you insurance for adoption, because if you've got that structure in place, you greatly increase your odds of adoption by the end users because they kind of understand it a little better. They feel like it's a good home for them. So that's how I like to describe it to the customers we work with.
Right. Again, right. Okay. Well, we've had a wonderful session, hopefully, where we've been able to cover most of what Cotap can do.
Is Thomas going to try once more? He's just appeared on the top row.
All right. Okay, Thomas, we'd like to try again. I know you've already met Brian in person, but if you want to come on and sort of guide the conversation a bit further and ask more poignant questions or pointed questions, because you have
it's worth a retry now you've come back in, Thomas.
Yeah, just press the call in button. Right, okay. Well, I'm just going to send out a tweet because the wonderful thing about Blab is that this show will be recorded and people can watch it back afterwards, and there'll be a video going up on YouTube as well, and the blog post. And of course, everyone who's here today, as Brian said, to actually join in on Cotap and to experience it, you can do that for free. There's no cost in trying the system out. You get in there, you just sign in with your email address, and then you're sent a password, which is a temporary pass key, 4-character key, which is easy to remember, and then you're into the system and you can explore. And it's not a, well, it is a fully functional version, isn't it? The free version. I mean, it doesn't have all the facilities of the paid version.
Not much limitations to the free version. The premium version is mostly about unlimited data sharing and the administrative side, so being able to control and structure things a little bit more. One other topic that, if you don't mind, I wanted to touch on with the group is part of the inspiration for the business in sort of the bigger picture was working with a lot of the companies while at Yammer and Microsoft. We worked with these giant corporations who had a mix of employees who sat at desks and employees who had no desk. Whether that was a retailer or a construction firm, all sorts of companies have this hybrid setup where you have a mix of desk and non-desk workers. And a term that I always just hated was referring to desk workers as knowledge workers, as if the people who don't sit at a desk don't have any knowledge. I just thought that was really self-serving and kind of, I don't know, just never sat well with me. And when we tried to extend the use of Yammer out to those mobile teams, because we did have a mobile app, we realized it wasn't designed for that use case alone. It was a good, like I said, a good companion to the web version, but it wasn't good as a standalone mobile app. So part of the vision with Cotap was, let's, for the first time, connect these mobile workers with the desk workers, and that can do just amazing things for a business. Things like if the CEO wants to get an important bit of information out to everyone in the company, they want to send a push notification out to all employees, they can do that with Cotap, and it's basically impossible using any other tool. So one of the things that gets me fired up every day working at Cotap is connecting these previously disconnected workers and watching as they become more technology enabled and seeing what kind of productivity enhancements arise as a result of that.
And indeed, and with the ease of use, there's ready adoption by anybody in the workforce, isn't there? There's no great hurdles to overcome in using the system. As we said earlier, it's simple to use.
Yeah, and that's important. A lot of people will make the mistake of thinking that Cotap is there's not much to it because they look at the app and it seems simple. But that's not true at all. There's a lot of depth and power to what we've built. We purposely keep it very simple so that we don't exclude the non-tech savvy user. Because if the more complicated it gets, the less likely they're going to want to use it or know how to use it. So we hide a lot of functionality in the app and only present it when it's useful.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm a coder. I code desktop SQL Server systems. So you've got to have the power underneath, but keep the outer, the GUI simple so that people can understand it. And as I said earlier, the interface is the same whether you're on the iPhone or on the Android or on the desktop or on the PC, web. So I congratulate you on a beautiful piece of design because it's icon driven. You press the icon, you get the option, press another icon, you're back to the next option, and it's all within the same screen. It is a joy to use. And the thing that I like about it, as opposed to WhatsApp, is that I don't have to have my mobile phone on to use it on the desktop. And in terms of Slack, which we've also used, I know you said that there's a lot under the hood, but it is the sheer simplicity that you've got in there, that it's a lot easier to use and will appeal to a lot more people. So my congratulations on that. Are there any things that you feel I've not asked you so far? You've brought up a couple, but we're here, we're on the record, and is there anything you want to...
Yeah, one interesting topic I think is when to build technology for different platforms. So as an example, I think before mobile, the last big shift in computing was moving from client-server model to the cloud. And I would say Salesforce.com did the best job at taking advantage of the virtues and the attributes of the cloud. They kind of led the way with cloud enterprise software. Now, the interesting topic here is there is you can be too early on these things, and you could be too late. So if you try to build let's say someone tried to build a cloud model before the internet had enough adoption, or before people really understood what the internet was, then they would have had a very hard time selling their product. Similarly with mobile, I think now is the right time, even though we've been talking about mobile for a few years now. We've gotten to the point where companies realize the importance of it, they realize the value, and now they're looking they've got the devices out there, now they need to get the apps on those devices that are useful to them.
Yeah.
So, it begs the question, when we move into wearables and IoT and VR, when are those applications going to come out? I would argue that it's way too early right now, but there will be a time where there's a Cotap, virtual reality sort of thing. I can't imagine that now, but it sort of seems like an inevitability.
Yeah. Anything is possible. We live in exciting times. One thing we haven't covered, which I'm going to come to now, I apologize for this, is the integrations within Cotap.
Yeah. Because
you mentioned Salesforce, but that's not the only one, is it?
Yeah, so I'll post a link here. We've taken a very interesting approach to integration. So we've got a spectrum of integrations. Some are more native and some are more about notifications. And I'll describe what that means in a minute. So when you're on the mobile app and you go to the settings page, you'll see a list of applications that you can integrate with, largely around online file services. So Box, Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, Ignite, etc. And that's one of our native integrations. And you use that to power the file picker from mobile. So on a conversation, you can choose a file from one of those services and share it just like you'd share a photo, which is extremely powerful. But we've also developed these things called cobots. I've posted, you can read more about it in the integrations page. But basically, and this was another very clever product decision by our product and engineering team, we realized that most systems deliver notifications by an SMTP alert, an email to whoever needs to get the update. So whether that's a classic example would be your HR system letting you know that open enrollment is starting soon based on a date. I think, I don't know if that's an international thing, but in the US, you have to enroll in healthcare at a certain time of year.
No.
So what we did was we created cobots, which they bridge the gap between those notifications from any system into a Cotap group. So the process is you pick a Cotap group, you give the cobot a name, we call them cobots, so you can call it, like, classic example would be a weather bot. And then when you generate it, it creates a unique email address. And then you just load that unique email address into the system that's providing the notifications. And instead of going to an email, it just pops into the Cotap group as a special message type that you can tap into. You can view the entire notification. It's really, really fascinating. I love that feature, and a lot of interesting use cases for that. And it's kind of like we've given companies the tools to integrate Cotap in all of their systems, no matter how archaic they are, as long as they send out notifications via email.
Brilliant. That's the way forward, isn't it? By helping other software houses to get involved, your system can grow, and it can grow in directions you wouldn't even thought of. Yeah.
We've seen things like a fun example of that is in hospitality, again, a great industry for us because you've got so many mobile workers. Those hotels live and die by TripAdvisor reviews. And in TripAdvisor, when there's a new review, they can let you know as a property manager, they can send you an email update about that new review. So what we've done is we've created bots to take those new reviews and put them into Cotap. And the advantage, you may be wondering, why is it better that it's in Cotap than in email? And there's three main reasons. Number one is that you have the group to have a discussion with. So it's not just a single email sent out where it's not a really good collaboration space. Number two, we have read receipts in Cotap. You can tell who has read a message, so there's more accountability. And number three, the push notifications in Cotap. So the speed to response is going to be 60 times faster than email. So and speed is so important in that kind of responsiveness. So a lot of interesting opportunities with cobots, and I think we're just in the infancy of that particular feature.
Excellent. Look forward to that. I always love it when apps sort of progress and their functionality improves our daily lives. And certainly communication is the core of that, but the cobots, as you describe them, can be very, very helpful to everybody. Right, if anybody wants to join us, you're more than welcome to do so. It's been a fascinating session, Brian. Thank you for joining us. We are loving Cotap, and we give thanks on record to Thomas and to Bob Barker, who helped us get involved, and we look forward to using it. Right, I'm going to pause the recording in a moment. If you'd just like to do a final thank you to everyone who's joined us today, and then we'll come off air, but don't disappear because we'll just stay around for a moment to chat.
Yeah, great. I agree. Wanted to thank everyone. I recognize a lot of the faces here in the blab from Cotap, and it's people like yourselves that are so critical to our business to help spread the word of Cotap and get businesses aware of what it is and how it could be used. So thank you. We're all super thrilled. When Thomas and Bob walked into the Cotap office yesterday, it was sort of a round of applause because everybody had already heard about what was going on. So really appreciate all your support and the feedback and the ideas. Love it, and looking forward to continuing all those conversations.
Brilliant. I know Thomas and Bob will keep that going and keep us informed of what's going on. It will be a pleasure to interview you again in a couple of months as things progress and keep in touch. I thank you for coming on air today. It's been a most enjoyable session, and I wish everyone at Cotap well. And I thank everyone who's come in today and joined us. I thank John for coming in too on camera. And I'm going to pause the recording now. So